In the previous video, we discussed how to establish connection between Python and MySQL Then by using use_result method, we fetch data from DB and we learn how to handle the exception. In this video, we will see how to create table, insert the data, update the data, delete the data, and truncate the table. So before begin the discussion, let's see first use of finally block. The code which we place inside finally block will definitely execute irrespective of try and except block. For example, close the DB connection after completing the logic or task. That code we must execute in any condition. For that, we have placed db.close method inside finally block. So let's see whether the connection is really closed or not. Run the file in the terminal. We are able to fetch the data. So let's copy this db query method and paste it after db.close method. Save the file and run the file in the terminal. We can see here we are getting exception in line number 19, which is this line. The exception is MySQL DB exceptions operational error. So operational error we are getting because we have already closed the DB, and after closing the DB we are trying to fetch the data, which is incorrect. Remove this line and let's come back for discussion about create table. Step 1, we will use execute method here and create query inside that along with cursor method. So let's do that. Comment these lines. We don't need this underscore MySQL class here. Instead of that, we are going to use MySQL DB. So replace MySQL DB with underscore MySQL class. Save the file. After saving the file, establish the connection with the cursor db.cursor. Save the file. Now here we are going to use execute method. Inside that we are going to write query to create table. So connection dot execute method. Inside that write the query create table if not exists table name we are giving patients. Here first column we need ID, it is type of int, and we are going to give it as auto increment along with primary key. Second column we need name, the type is varchar and the length we need 10. third column date, type is date, fourth column time and data type is time. Save the file, store this execute method inside a variable called create. After this method, write a print statement and print the variable create. Save the file, run the file in the terminal. We are able to see our code has executed successfully and we are able to print the value 0. Let's check whether the table is created or not. Come to MySQL DB. Inside sys database, open table folder. We can see our table is created with ID, name, date and time columns. So come back to Visual Studio Code. What if we get any error inside this execute method, or what if this execute method throw any error? So let's see the example. For example, I'm giving auto increment spelling incorrect. So I'm removing T, save the file, run the file in the terminal. Here we are getting error message and error code. So this error message and error code, this exception is handled by this programming error. So let's check that. Remove this block, save the file, run the file in the terminal. Again we are getting the same error code and error message. Now this time the exception is handled by this exception block. So remove this exception block, save the file, run the file in the terminal. Now we are getting the exception. We are not handling this exception with any block. So press Ctrl Z and revert the code to its actual position. Now run the file in the terminal. Auto increment, change the spelling, save the file, run the file in the terminal. We are getting the result create 0. Again run the file. Again we are getting the same message. So in place of create, write table is created. Save the file, run the file in the terminal. Again run the file in the terminal. Step 2. We have noticed one thing here. We are creating table and when we run the file again and again, the print statement prints table is created. Well, this is incorrect. We are creating table only once. If it doesn't exist, then only print this message and create the table. To correct this, we will first check whether the table is available in DB or not. If the table is available inside the DB, then we will print a message table is already available. Else we will print table is created. So to check whether the table is available inside DB or not, we are going to use connection dot execute method. Inside that, use select table underscore name from information underscore schema dot table tables where table underscore name is equal to, we are going to pass table name here. Our table name is patients, so copy and paste the same name here. So this is the select query to check whether the table is available or not inside the DB. Information underscore schema dot tables is inbuilt table which is available inside MySQL. So store this method value inside a variable called check table is equal to connection dot execute method. Now print check table, save the file and run the file in the terminal. So there was a mistake inside the table name in the select query. So save the file and run the file in the terminal. Here message is coming, table is created. So we don't need this select statement. Comment these lines. Come back to terminal, run the file. So here we are able to print messages, check table, it is giving 1 and the second message is coming from this create variable, that is 0. So if the table exists inside the DB, then check table is going to give 1 value here. Otherwise, this check table is going to give 0 value. For example, let's change this number plate table to XYZ table. So this table is not available inside my DB. Run the file in the terminal. This table is not available inside the DB, then this check table variable is going to give 0 value. Here patient's table is available, that's why it is giving 1 value, 1. So now we come to know whether the table is available inside the DB or not. Let's use if condition. If check table, if this value is true, means check table is equal to 1. We don't need to write equal to 1 here. If check table is true, then print the message table is available in DB, else create the DB and print table is created. So save the file, comment this print statement, run the file in the terminal. Now we are getting the message table is available in DB. For example, let's create a table called company and change the table name here, company. Save the file. Now this time this company table is not available inside the DB, so it is going to give 0 value here. So if check table is equal to 0, so here check table value will be 0. So this if block is not going to execute. Instead of that, this else block is going to execute. Save the file, run the file in the terminal. So here message is coming, table is created. Let's check whether the table is created or not. Come back to MySQL workbench, refresh the DB. We can see, we are able to see patients and company table. So delete this company table, this table. Come back to Visual Studio Code. This is the way to create the table with Python. Step 3. We have noticed one thing. We are establishing connection with DB variable. One more variable we have created, connection. We need to close this connection as well. So connection dot close the connection of the cursor. Here we must follow the order. First we establish the connection for DB, so we need to close that connection in last. Before that we need to close the connection of cursor. So save the file, run the file in the terminal. Table is created. The table is created again. So what if we don't follow the order and we close this cursor connection after db.close? So make change here in the code and save the file, run the file in the terminal. It is throwing the error. The error is coming in line number 32. We have already closed the connection. After closing the connection, we cannot connect with cursor. So this is the incorrect code. So revert back the code, save the file, come back to workbench, refresh this table. We don't need this table. Step 4. Insert the data inside created DB patients. So change this company table name back to patients. Now let's insert the data inside this table. So for that we are going to use connection dot execute method. Inside this method, write the insert query. Insert into table name is patients. The first column is ID that we have set as auto increment. So we don't need to worry about that column. We are going to use remaining 3 columns: name, date and time values. name colon data type is varchar. So put it inside quotes, use a name, give a value Raja. The date format I'm going to use here, year 2020, month 12, and date, year, month, and date format, and for time 12 o'clock, 12 minutes, and 12 seconds. This is the time format is set for MySQL DB for time data type. Save the file. Here, insert, update, and delete. These are DML commands. For the DML commands, we need a commit. So db.commit, store the value for this insert query inside a variable insert and print a message insert, use the variable insert. Save the file, run the file in the terminal. One record is inserted here. Come back to MySQL DB. Here, open this table, patients. We can see first record is inserted with ID 1, name Raja, date and time. Come back to Visual Studio Code. What if we want to enter multiple values in place of this single value? So for that, we are going to use execute many method. So copy this line, comment this line, paste the line in place of execute, use execute many, and for the values we are going to use string format. So let's do that. %s, %s, %s. To insert the multiple values, we are going to use list of tuples. Now inside this list, use the first tuple to insert first row. So here the name I am going to use Ravi, date 2019 02 and 28. Time I am going to use 10 hour 10 minute 10 second. Now for the third record, I am going to use name Bhakti, date 2018 01 28, date, time 06 and 06. And for the fourth record, I am going to use Krish, date 2017 12 and 06, date, time format 18. So save the file, run the file in the terminal. we can see we have inserted 3 rows at a time. Open the DB, select this patient's table. We can see our ID column is auto increment type, which is taking first, second, third, and fourth. These int values automatically, and our records, 3 records are inserted at a time here. Come back to Visual Studio Code. Now, in place of hard coding this date and time, let's use system generated date and time value. For that, copy this insert statement and paste here. So here, in place of this date and time, we are going to use system generated date and time. So remove this. So for this one, we are going to use percentage %s, percentage %s, percentage %s, string formation, and we are going to insert the values. First value, name, say Rahul, today's date and today's time. So save the file. To get today's date and today's time, we are going to use from date time import date for date and date time to print time. So today is equal to date dot today is the method, and for time date time dot now is the method. So save this file. We are going to use this today here in place of our hard-coded date value and time in place of the hard-coded time value. So use these variables inside this insert query. Save the file. Run the file in the terminal. We can see one single record is inserted. Come back to DB, refresh the DB. We can see one record is inserted with the current date and current time. Come back to Visual Studio Code. Step 5. Let's use select query inside this execute method and fetch the data which are available inside this patient's table. So comment these lines. Connection.execute. Select star from table name is patients. So store this value inside a variable select is equal to connection.execute. So now here we cannot fetch the data directly. We need to use one method fetch one to fetch single record, or we can use fetch all to fetch all the records which are available inside this table. So let's fetch all the records in place of fetching single record. So store this fetch all method inside a variable result. Result is equal to connection dot fetch all. So declare and initialize a variable I with 0. I am going to use here while loop here while I less than length of the result print the result for the values starting from 0 and up to the length of this result. So here at the end of every iteration increase I value by 1, otherwise it will become an infinite value. So save the file, run the file in the terminal. We are able to fetch the available rows inside this patients table. Step 6. Now let's update the record available inside the DB. So comment this line. We are going to use connection.execute method, triple quotes, inside this write update query, update table name, set, let's change the date for this fifth ID. So for that set date is equal to 1999 year, month, 12, day, 14, where ID is equal to 5. So this is DML command. We need db.commit method and store this method inside a variable called update is equal to connection.execute and print the result. Print update variable. Save the file, run the file in the terminal. One record is inserted, one row is updated here. Come back to MySQL workbench, refresh this table. So here we have modified this date. So one date is modified successfully. Come back to Visual Studio Code. Now let's see how to use delete query. Comment this line, copy the lines, so delete is the variable, delete is equal to connection.execute. Delete from table name where ID is equal to 5. So delete this fifth ID record. So save the file, modify this print statement, save the file, run the file in the terminal. One row is deleted. Come back to MySQL workbench. We can see here 5 rows are available. So refresh this table. Our fifth row is deleted. Come back to Visual Studio Code. Now let's use truncate. So comment these lines. Truncate is equal to connection dot execute truncate table. We are going to give table name patients. It is a type of DDL command. We don't need commit here. So simply print the message. Save the file, run the file in the terminal. So if table is truncated, let's check. Come back to MySQL, refresh this table. All the rows are deleted. Come back to Visual Studio Code. Comment this line. Save the file. Step 6. How to use a rollback. Suppose for this insert query we are not using this db.commit method. So comment that line, save the file, run the file. What we are doing here, we are trying to insert one record inside the db, but I don't want to use this commit method. So run the file in the terminal. Come back to db, refresh this table. We are not able to see any record. We have not committed any record. Come back to Visual Studio Code. Now I want to roll back the record. To roll back the record, we are going to use db.rollback method, which is going to roll back the insert query which we are trying to insert into database. So save the file, run the file in the terminal. So our record is rollbacked. So how can we prove that whether the record is rollback or not? So put this db.commit method after this rollback method. Save the file. So here we are inserting the record inside the db, but before committing the record we are using rollback method, which is not going to commit the data inside db. So let's check that. Run the file, come back to db, refresh the db. We can see data are not inserted. Come back to Visual Studio Code. So in this video tutorial, we learned how to create table using Python code, and we learned how to use insert, update, delete and truncate queries, and we learned how to fetch the data using the select query, and we learned we must close the cursor connection first. After that we need to close db connection. So this is the complete CURD operation we have seen in this video. Thank you for watching this video.